So, overall, I really enjoyed this project. I felt like I learned a lot, and I actually genuinely felt like I not master, but really learned the skill. So the skill classification that I would use to classify making friendship bracelets is, excuse me, gonna be serial because it's a lot of small, discrete hand movements that are strung together in a very specific chronological order, in order to make the final product actually happen. So the goal of the skill obviously is to make a bracelet, but I kind of bounced around a lot on like being able to measure my progress. I feel like part of it I can measure with time because, the more I mastered a pattern, the better I got at it, the more quickly I was able to complete a pattern. But I also feel like one of the biggest things that I kind of used was the finished product of the bracelet, which I'm also going to kind of consider to be in the number of errors. Like while I was making the bracelet, sometimes I would forget whether I tied a knot once or twice. And so just being able to differentiate, being like, okay, no, I remember I did this more than once. I remember I did this more than once. I would say is kind of a gauge of error. Therefore, I would use that as a gauge as well. So the process that I took to learn the skill, I looked at a lot of different how-to articles. I did not look at YouTube videos or anything because they were too much in real time and where I needed to be able to work and learn on my own time. So I just looked at a bunch of articles on how to do it. I adjusted my mistakes that I was making by kind of adjusting the way that both I sat and where I positioned the bracelet, how I organized the strings in order for it to be most organized and easy to use for myself. This helped a lot because it helped me have a clear mind on, okay, I should be using this string with this string at this time, instead of accidentally using the wrong string at the wrong time. And most importantly, I looked at the finished products when knowing how to adjust. So for example, this is the very first bracelet I made. As you can see, like if I were to pull on it, very spacious. The knots are not tied tightly. And then up here, this loop is really big. It's not needed to be that big. It's taking up a lot of bracelet space. Whereas this is my most recent bracelet, whereas I made a fancier kind of knot. It is tied together very tightly, and not to mention it's a more complicated pattern. So I kind of used the errors from the finished product to turn it into a better looking product in the end. So for fifth stage, the first stage is cognitive, and for that one, I put basically like how I was learning to tie the knots, when to tie the knots, and what strings to tie the knots with in the corresponding order in order to create rows and then eventually a whole entire bracelet. For stage 2, which is fixation, I adjusted approaches and techniques to create a better product and create more fluid and less mistakes. So I adjusted, like I said earlier, the way I sat, the way I positioned and organized and spread out the different bracelets to minimize the amount of errors that I was making. And then for fifth stage 3, that's the autonomous, and that was when I think I was able to do the bracelets with distractions like TV or my roommates or the dogs being present and me still being able to do it successfully. As for Bernstein's, stage 1, which is reducing the degrees of freedom, I decided to sit down alone with no distractions at first, while looking at instructions. So it was just me, the instructions, and the bracelet. No distractions, nobody in the room, no TV, nothing. Whereas in stage 2, where I was releasing the degrees of freedom, is when I was able to complete the patterns with having those distractions like TV, roommates, dogs, etc., while also not looking at the instructions as well. And then that brings you into stage 3, which is exploiting passive dynamics, and that is changing my approach and in order for it to be the most effective and efficient. So I kind of switched up the way that I was doing the videos. I realized that I preferred, when I was able to, I preferred having the bracelets tied to a table rather than tied to the box that I was using, because it was more of a non-movable surface. And I also realized what kind of order I liked the bracelets to be positioned in with the string in order to keep it effective, efficient, and organized. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this project, and I'm really glad I was able to complete it.